Hi and welcome to another episode of eComOne, and today's guest is Henry Gill. Henry is the current head of PPC at eComOne and SEO Traffic Lab. How are you doing, Henry?
Yeah, really good, thank you. Not too bad at all. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you. Now, I obviously know Henry. For those that don't know, I know Henry very well because he is the head of the agency in the paid ads department and works on both sides of the agencies, on the eComOne side and on the SEO Traffic Lab side. So I know Henry's got some amazing insights and sort of career history to share with everybody that's listening in, sort of along the paid ad side and sort of your career to date. So how's things going?
Yeah, really good. Yeah, as you say, I've had a kind of interesting career path in some respects because I kind of started out initially when I went to university studying a history degree. So I did a 3-year history degree and I absolutely loved it at the time. And then I went on to do a history MA as well. So at the time, I was actually thinking of potentially becoming a history academic. So I did this master's course. And then I was actually kind of during the master's course, actually, I kind of found out that I might actually want to do something a bit different. And yeah, during the course itself, I found it was very little kind of contact time. I was spending all my time in the library at home. It wasn't very kind of social, and I kind of decided I wanted to have a job, have work in a way that would be kind of with other people, much more collaborative rather than being quite isolated. So yeah, I kind of then went on. Actually, I didn't go into marketing straight away. I then went and thought about trying to become a lawyer. So I went. I did a what's called a conversion course, law conversion course.
Yeah,
so a bit more time at university, and then I spent some time paralegaling as well. And it was it was actually while I was paralegaling. One of my responsibilities alongside doing the legal work was doing some of the marketing. And actually thought I absolutely loved the marketing and not so much the legal side of things. So a lot of the
yeah, I think that's an interesting one, isn't it? I think we're sort of society-wise and sort of we sort of generally our sort of paths are very quite often sort of family do a certain thing a certain way, so we're brought up to do a certain thing. So I know it's very similar, so you sort of went to uni, started in history, then went to law, then ended up doing marketing sort of thing. And, obviously through that time, it was all about the history, master's degree, isn't it, in history?
Yeah, master's history, that's right.
Then law, so it's like what's that, six years at uni, is it pretty much somewhere there?
Yeah, I did my MO kind of semi kind of part-time as well. So I was kind of 5 years doing history and then like I spent 2 years at university doing law. So I did the GDL and I was working at the LPC as well.
Yes.
And then in between there, I did a year when I was doing paralegaling at a law firm in Bristol.
Yeah.
So I kind of realized I was doing the paralegaling, even though it wasn't kind of the most kind of glamorous work. I kind of felt it was I enjoyed that a lot more than the recent work I'd time at university.
Did you have a bit of a tussle then? At that point, you'd gone there to do law. Obviously, you then got a paralegaling job. But obviously marketing, you're like, oh my God, I can't tell anybody that I actually don't want to do law anymore. I'm going to do marketing. Was it a bit of a sort of strange week or month or 6 months or whatever?
Yeah, absolutely.
Am I going to jump ship or not?
Yeah. I think at those, I came across I think on your blog at the time actually, which kind of resonated me with this thing called the fallacy of sunk costs. So I kind of, as you say, I spent a lot of time and a lot of expense obviously going to studying law. I've got a lot of work experience. I hadn't just done the kind of the 3 years. I also done loads of work experience as well and things at different law firms. So I was pretty knowledgeable about kind of the law of that time, and it would have been the obvious thing to do in some respects. But I think ultimately I was kind of I was actually the stage where I was applying for legal jobs and kind of filling in these kind of endless application forms, and I catch on kind of to see the question kind of why do you want to be a lawyer? I was like, actually, I'd much prefer to do this other kind of small my side project at the law firm I was working at. So yeah, I think for me it was just so much more creative. Doing the kind of the marketing stuff, and I was just kind of doing quite low level things, really, like running the Twitter account and organizing events, and then I was actually did a bit of design and some signage and things as well. But I got a real kind of buzz out of doing that. I was quite lucky actually. They gave me quite a lot of scope to do what I wanted to and kind of put my mark on the marketing there as well. At the law firm I was working at.
They gave you a taste of what is possible out there, and then obviously you went all in with the marketing role. So now fast forward 4 years now, I think, isn't it? Fast forward 4 years ish. Tell us about sort of what you're doing now in terms of in the company.
Yes. So I now head up the PPC department. So I kind of got a team there, probably I suppose 4 to 5 people, kind of depending how you look at it, working on the on the PPC side with a kind of technical side, and then within our own marketing as well. There are a lot of people who are working on the kind of paid elements of that. So heading up the PPC side, where we look at Google ads is a really big focus of mine, particularly. Also Facebook ads. We do a bit of Bing as well. Some work on LinkedIn ads as well. So a lot of different areas, a lot of different channels that we look at. But for me, my kind of a huge amount of my focus is on the Google side, particularly, and Google Shopping especially.
So you've got an array of clients there. Obviously, I know this, but for the benefit of the listeners, you've got an array of clients from ranging from I think companies selling toilets to companies selling. Give us a bit of an insight into some of the things that some of the brand or some of the sort of types of products that you're representing and selling for clients.
Yeah, so we do work in a lot of different verticals, a lot of different industries. A lot of what we do is, of course, e-commerce. So companies selling products online, and as you say, we've got everything from kind of toilets. We work with a company who sells quite high volumes of safes, quite expensive safes. Companies sell outdoor wear. Companies selling Velux windows, frozen fish. There's a huge kind of really big range. Clothing. There's I think loads and probably tens of different verticals that we work in, really. Jewelry as well. Lots of different interesting kind of sectors.
Plethora, can't say that word. Plethora of industries, and obviously I know more than anyone really the real depth of that you do work on, your team works on. Now, obviously, you talked about the different platforms in effect. Google, Facebook, and obviously Google. You've got different types of ads, display, search, shopping. Which sort of which channels and which of those advertising types do you find the best results?
Yeah, it does depend quite a bit on the client. So I think one of the key things to think about in working with PPC is that a lot of it you work in terms of a market. So a lot of the time, the price you pay for a click is very much dependent on what your next competitor is willing to pay. So if you want to be at the very top of Google, for instance, the very top of the search results, your bid might be, say, £1. But then if your competitor below you says they only want to pay, kind of 10p, you'll pay just above them. So you just pay 11p to be in that very top position. But then if you've got a competitor who's much more aggressive in their bidding and you want to be above them, they might themselves bid £1, and then you have to bid £1, 1p. So there's one of the things that I can remember just when I was getting into marketing, I was into a lot of Gary Vaynerchuk, and he was saying, what is the underpriced attention? And that's a big important thing to take into consideration. So for some clients, they will see underpriced attention on Facebook, whereas in other clients, it might be on Google. So kind of Google Shopping might be kind of work really well, or might be Google Search. But in general, I'd say for e-commerce clients, the real kind of no-brainer is to set up Google Shopping as a kind of a first port of call.
Good to hear.
Yeah. And alongside that, would really highly recommend also setting up Facebook ads, and particularly dynamic Facebook ads. So that's having those two, they work really well together. Actually, myself and my colleague Ben, we did a talk a while ago on the I think it was called the digital power couple of kind of combining Facebook and Google ads. So yeah, they definitely do work well together. I think if you're just starting out with an e-commerce store, I think a really powerful thing to do would be Google Shopping's first of all. And although in fact, if you've got a really small budget, you could probably see very strong results going to Facebook remarketing.
So Google Shopping as a start point, expand on that, but also try and tie that in with Facebook ads and the remarketing side. So interesting today. Last night, I know Mark Zuckerberg announced a new feature within Facebook. I don't know all the details. It's literally, I think literally 24 hours ago it was announced. Obviously, we're in lockdown. We're on day, I've lost track, but 65 or something like that, maybe 60-ish. I think we're 9 weeks in, aren't we, as a company?
That's it.
In lockdown, and obviously we've seen some crazy sort of movements, ups and downs, a lot of ups, a few downs, in different verticals. e-commerce has become this new thing, but obviously not to us and those that are already using it. But a lot of industries, it's like, right, we really need to do this e-commerce thing. And Facebook announced yesterday that they're doing their own e-commerce integrations from within the platform. Is there anything you can say on? Is there anything you can say on that at this stage? I know it's very new and it's literally, probably 5 working hours ago it was announced. Is there anything there that's quite exciting that you're aware of?
It's definitely exciting. I mean, Facebook, you can really see that being incredibly powerful and being a massive rival to some of the other e-commerce channels, I suppose. So I think it could really rival potentially Amazon if they pull it off well. I mean, as you say, it's very early days at the moment. They've literally just announced it. But from what we can see on the kind of Facebook side of things, with the right targeting, you can get fantastic results. I think if people start using kind of Facebook and the store side of things, I can see it really taking off.
Because I think, like you say, with Facebook, you've got this real standout platform for targeting. I think that's it. Well, it is a fact. But now, getting products in front of those people has always been, I think, maybe a little bit of a technical problem for those that aren't working with agencies and things like that. I mean, even when they are, DPAs, dynamic product ads, is always the way to go to get products in. But obviously, this new layer, this new shop, obviously we don't know too much yet. But there's a few things I've read that it ties in with the different platforms. So, we're seeing this massive growth in Shopify as a brand. I think they've given 6 months free trials. I think it's till the end of October. I think their share value, which is quite an indicator, I think, in sort of obviously customer behavior and brand equity and sort of value in what people are using and spending money with, or are going to spend money with. I think more so. Shopify giving 6 months free, so in 6 months, those however many millions, because it will be in the millions, that have taken up a free shop, and then now we'll have the ability to integrate that shop with Facebook very quickly, very easily. Or I think you can sort of see like two other power couple, a new power couple.
Yeah.
Shopify and Facebook together taking on Amazon. I mean, that's a hell of a fight, and there's just some crazy sort of Goliath battle going on. But on the e-commerce stage, so it really spotlights e-com, doesn't it? That Mark Zuckerberg went live yesterday with it. It's definitely one to watch.
It certainly does. I think in a way it will tie up a lot of things together as well very nicely. So I think if you're a brand and you've got a Facebook page, then you can immediately kind of target your ads or even kind of organically just really kind of tell your story, set out what's kind of makes you unique, put on special offers on Facebook, and that's very visible. You can just get in front of people who are really enthusiastic about your kind of your product or your brand or service. And then with that, it's probably as well with it could be very very straightforward for them people to make a purchase on Facebook itself, for instance. Everyone's kind of logged into Facebook all the time. I know I am. And you can just see it being so frictionless in terms of someone seeing a piece of content, then maybe an ad next to it, and then they could just with one click. This is how I think it's going.
Yes.
People make a purchase. So I can see the conversion rates being fantastic and cost per acquisitions being really low, which obviously kind of a marketer's dream and a retailer's dream.
I think that's where Amazon have got that. Amazon are just ingrained in all of our lives. That's a bit of an extreme statement, but you're almost, it's part of my right. I want to buy something, blah blah blah. You know what? I mean, it's every day. Amazon's coming to most people's houses, I guess. But definitely, when we're buying stuff for our team every day and for our own business and house, and kids are here and whatnot. And, you just go on one click, done. And even if you don't do the one click, it's only like 3 clicks. You've already got your credit cards loaded and your credit card loaded and your address is loaded. And I think that's that frictionless that you talk about. Facebook do that. You're on the feed, you see the product, the 1 click, 2 click. Obviously, I'm not quite sure. I don't know if you are.
No, sure. It's
like, what that's going to look like, but that's going to be the key, isn't it? That speed, that frictionless, that ease. Where you probably preload your cards in somewhere in Facebook. To buy that. Crikey, and he went on Facebook to have a look at what my mates did last weekend, and I've just bought, which
is a bit dangerous, got you? Yeah, definitely.
But on Amazon, and you know what? I mean, we're both very similar when it comes to reading and books, and books. We're both crazy for learnings and whatnot. We just buy this, that, and the other sort of thing. Well, it's we're gonna need an extra however many hundreds of pounds a month now for the Facebook brainwashing that's coming. Maybe, I don't know. Okay,
so you can just see kind of someone just like kind of on podcast or kind of introducing the podcast, like a video podcast or whatever, and there's here, and this is my latest book. Just one click, and then you can post it on Facebook. So you do that kind of match up between the content, kind of valuable content like video content and information, and then making a purchase. That could actually, in some respects, put them ahead of the game with Amazon. So on Amazon, there's not really, I mean, it's to a very small extent, but there's not really that kind of go there to consume interesting content. You kind of go there to make a purchase. But
it's very you're there to buy, aren't you, rather than learn or educate. Okay, well, we'll come back to shopping, we'll come back to some strategies shortly, but so I think listening to as we've dealt with hundreds of clients over the years, and still do, and I think what normally we see as an agency from a agency owner perspective is that the clients that are doing well, and the clients that engage in agency, they see the real value in having an agency, and quite often that boils down to the fact that there's that much within the interface, that much within AdWords, that much within Facebook, and of course within maybe 3 months you can become pretty good at ads, but the reality is things are changing all the time. Literally yesterday, Facebook's now announced XYZ, so there's a whole other revenue stream waiting there to be, to explode. Lots of announcements around Google Shopping this last week or two, which we'll dive into. So what would you say, how do you feel that pay-per-click is changing? What's some of the main areas for the big development, the exciting areas that you see at the moment in the next sort of year or so?
Yeah, there are a lot of things going on. I think Google, in particular, is quite keen to push on the AI side, particularly. So one of the kind of the tussles we sometimes have on the Google side is the extent to which AI, kind of the effect at which a manager or an individual can influence it. But it can actually have some really positives as well. And rather than there's smart shopping, which is a really something Google have been pushing pretty hard, where effectively Google have all the control, and you can't really make any adjustments other than kind of switching a certain product on or off, which can work fairly well to some extent. But things which Google are doing at the moment, kind of using their AI, are things like responsive search ads, which we've seen surprisingly good results for. I mean, I think it was about 2 years ago, it wasn't working very well at all when we first started testing it, and then in the last kind of 6 months, it's really taken off. What responsive search ads are is you, rather than a traditional ad group where you create, for instance, 3 different ads. Best practice is usually to create 3 ads within an ad group, all of which have a combination of headlines and descriptions. You supply a lot of different headlines and descriptions, and Google rotate them around and find the best combinations. And initially, when we tried this, we found it was dreadful. So it was kind of at a very high cost. We got pretty good click-through rates, but that wasn't much good because the conversion value, or the all-important return ad spend wasn't there really. But in recent months, they've kind of developed that, and you can do things like you can say, okay, well, you can always pin the top headline, for instance, if you want to, and then everything else in the ad can rotate. So there are a lot more options there, and then so that's really useful. And a lot of the other AI is worth dipping into, and definitely worth testing. And I think that's going to only improve over time.
So I know on that topic, I know obviously yourself and the agency are a huge fan of using automations and scripts.
Yeah, absolutely.
It'd be good to give an example of, say, let's say, I'm an e-commerce store owner. I've got 20,000 SKUs, pretty common. I've got products ranging from £5 to £5,000. I've got stock coming in, stock coming out every day. Some products are in stock, some products are out of stock. Lots of variables is what I'm driving at.
Sure, yeah.
Which in reality, I think makes to be able to run that campaign optimally. Yeah. With completely with a human and an account manager. Yeah, sure. That's obviously really challenging. But with scripts, I know you guys have developed, or you've developed some incredible scripts that can do literally thousands of actions in an account in an hour even, but obviously usually over a day, 1,000 plus changes in a day is very common. What sort of things, can you do with scripts? What sort of things, just to give the listeners an insight into the sort of things as an e-commerce store that can be done?
Yeah, I think probably one of my favorite things to do, well, I'll touch on two things. One of my favorite things to do is adjust the bidding with the scripts. So a lot of the success of a PPC campaign, particularly on Google Shopping, comes down to are you bidding the right amount for a certain product to appear in the listings? So you'll really have to take into consideration the conversion rate of the product and the average conversion value of that product as well. So if your bid's too high, you might be getting loads of clicks, loads of volume, loads of conversion value, but it might be very unprofitable. So one of the scripts that we've developed is a way of making quite small incremental changes, because kind of a couple of pence up and down, depending on the return on ad spend, the ROAS of a product and its conversion value over both a 30-day period and a 60-day period. So it has to satisfy the criteria that we deem successful, for instance, to make a bid increase over both of those time periods. And that's would be very, very time consuming to do for these accounts where we've got thousands, in some instances, tens of thousands of products. So you can make these little adjustments where we're seeing particularly good results. So one of the scripts that we have, for instance, was say, okay, well, look at all these products which have performed really well over 10 and 30 days. So they might be performing at twice our targets. And provided that our search impression share is a certain level, they might increase the bids by 1p or 2p. So it's very, very small adjustments. But if we're running those multiple times, a couple of times a week, for instance, then they can kind of start to stack up. And then as soon as stops hitting
products that are doing well, and then you do reductions on the products that are doing poorly, potentially.
Yeah, that's absolutely right. So yeah, you really want to kind of control the kind of two areas that you really want to have a lot of focus on are the products and keywords as well, where you're spending a lot but not getting a return. And the other side, of course, is where you're getting a fantastic return, but you might have quite a small search impression share. For instance, you can just really try and push that product a lot further up into the point where it's.
I have to admit, it's one of those that
profitable.
If you're not familiar with scripts and what they can do, I think a lot of people, the sort of untrained eye, or the people that are used to doing it the old way, I think this is when you're sort of embracing change, embracing the new developments in any industry. The reality is, with that script, if you've got 20,000 SKUs, some are doing really well, some are doing really bad. That is the reality of life, and somewhere in the middle, what you're reporting on usually is a ROAS for everything. But the reality is you've got a ROAS here, ROAS, all these ROASes. Well, if you adjust, you can take that average ROAS of everything to such a better level. So, you're really exploiting the winners in effect, and and really hammering down the losers, or where the biggest opportunities are. And obviously there's opportunities everywhere, but be able to do that manually, with all the will in the world, you might start off well, as a dedicated account manager, the guy looking after the AdWords, etc. But the reality is, life gets in the way, whatever, other things you have to do in the account. You just can't make those, tens of thousands of changes in a monthly basis. So what would be another good script then that you would recommend?
Yeah. I mean, just to finish off on that point, actually, what I find is really handy as well is that in an account, for instance, if you've got 10,000 different SKUs where you're making adjustments, it is very appropriate, I think, to really hone in and make manual adjustments for the very top performers. So your kind of best sellers, monitor those very, very carefully, make bespoke kind of adjustments for them manually, potentially. But then you've got kind of a lot of this middle ground stuff, mid performers, and now I think that's where automation is really handy, where it makes the right kind of adjustment. So you leave yourself a pretty big
lever.
You leave it's quite important to leave quite a big margin of safety. So if a product does fairly well, you don't want to necessarily ramp up the bids massively, or it's doing a little bit below average, you don't want to really decrease it. But making small adjustments there can save you a lot of time. So you can have a lot more kind of thinking time to make the right adjustments and do the kind of creative work, creating better ad copy for the really high performers, for instance.
Good. Yeah, great. So what would be one more script that you would sort of think about is right up there in your top three?
So this script's reasonably complex. So this is all to do with keyword sculpting.
Yeah.
So this is with shopping campaigns.
Yeah.
With a shopping campaign, unlike a search campaign, you can't bid on specific keywords to trigger ads. So for instance, if you were selling barbecues, you'd have a product feed, and then it would have a kind of a description of the product and have various fields filled out, and then your ad would trigger because Google thinks it's a good, for a certain keyword, because Google thinks it's a good match to the data in your feed.
Yeah.
So in that example, you might find that you have for instance, you might have a search term which is very specific and does really well, has a really high conversion rate. So for instance, a Toronto grill extra large barbecue is a very specific term. Someone who's searching that obviously knows what they're looking for. And the chance of them making a purchase from that long tail search term is very high. So keyword sculpting is really a way of making sure that we segregate the really high performing search terms on shopping from the kind of generic low performers, because officially you can't do that. You can't bid on a keyword in the same way that you can with a search campaign. So what this script allows you to do is, first of all, we have a script which segregates automatically campaigns into high, medium, and low priority.
Yeah.
And that affects where the search term will cause the ad to trigger. And effectively what you're doing is blocking off keywords which are really high performers. So they stop filtering into your low bid campaign, and they can only filter into a medium or high priority campaign where the bids are quite a lot higher. So high priority in terms of our own kind of how we would class it. So yeah, so for Toronto grill, for instance, you could then have a bit of a pound, whereas for barbecue itself, a very kind of generic term, you might just want a kind of a bit of 10p or so.
Yeah.
So the script that we use automatically creates those different segregations. That would take hundreds of hours to do that for lots of different products. And then the second thing it does, it would automatically exclude the best performing keywords. So they end up filtering into this campaign where we've got much higher bids. And so we're just bidding at a really high level on these superstar keywords and not for the generic.
Brand terms, longer terms.
Exactly.
Product names, brands, product part numbers, that type of thing. Yeah.
Exactly. So the script again would have a look at the performance of the search term, and it would have to make some pretty stringent criteria for it to be in this this campaign where we're bidding these really large amounts of money comparative terms to the generic campaign.
Yeah. Okay. So that gives you the capacity to, rather than with search, what we're saying is with search ads, you can bid on a keyword. With Google Shopping, you can't technically bid on a keyword.
Yeah,
well,
that's right.
You can't sort of say, I will bid £10 on this XYZ grill. But
Yeah.
by herding keywords in, blocking them here, and pushing them into this campaign, you can then treat them differently and bid on them differently, or stop them in this campaign and bid on them differently. So that enabled what you're saying. Yeah, fantastic. Obviously, I know very well that it works exceptionally well because it's on one of our sort of almost patented. It's not, but it's it's quite a well-known strategy that we've massaged it probably to the 8th degree over the years, and it's one that we know. It's very transformative, isn't it? Because you're able to really get very granular on specific products rather than treating the word barbecue the same as XYZ extra large silver barbecue. Rather than bidding £1 on each, we know that the 5-word product search term, part number, size, color search term is going to perform a lot better. Yeah. So scripts, massive advocate of scripts. So moving on from scripts, what would you say, excluding scripts, what's working well right now? Right now, these ecom guys are listening in. They're deciding what to do, with budgets and sort of campaigns, or maybe getting started, on a certain platform. What's working now? What are you seeing through the many accounts that you oversee or manage yourself? What are you seeing that's working very well?
I mean, I'd say on a macro level, e-commerce has been doing very well over the last kind of few months. So we're seeing a real spike in demand. So clicks are massively up, conversions are up as well. In a lot of instances, conversion rates are up, and that all important return on ad spend is doing well as well for a lot of our clients. I think a lot of the reason for that, of course, is a lot of the retail stores are shut, and a lot of people who previously would have gone out and made a purchase in a shop are now going online. So it's a real opportunity if you do sell products and you haven't looked into advertising before. I'd say definitely have a look at that. And it's definitely an opportunity there.
So a lot of industries now are doing obviously very well, but obviously there's certain industries we know that are really struggling. Tourism, hotel, etc., travel. But e-com, where you can physically buy, a lot of industries are doing very well. So, the guys that are maybe either thinking of starting, it's a very good time to start, I think is what you're saying. And obviously the ones that are already in the trenches, really look at the data to understand where, because I think the reality is that some of the ROASs that you're seeing I hate to use the word unprecedented, but some unprecedented. I know just before the call, you were talking about a client that's doing Facebook getting 40 or 39 times return, I think it was.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, we had a conversation as well with a client yesterday who had a whole month's worth of their revenue, which they had in a single week as well. So there's a lot of people seeing these kind of results that they would have be seeing around usually around Christmas time in terms of demand. That kind of uptake in orders, uptake in traffic as well. So yeah, there is opportunity there on e-commerce, definitely. And then specifically, I think as well, they're one of the campaigns that we're looking at, which we're seeing very good results for so far. We've just kind of started with it really with video ads. Is we're getting exceptionally low cost per views on YouTube. So it's one of the kind of very rare numbers of campaigns where you can get a kind of a cost per view of under 1p. So it's kind of unprecedented really in that sense on the Google. So it's still very early days with that one yet so far. And we're always quite dubious about certain kind of display campaigns in particular. We found in the past that although you get a huge number of views potentially, that doesn't necessarily translate into sales. But certainly we're pretty excited to see where this leads, especially because we've seen the combination of on Facebook of having videos and then the option to make a purchase in something called a collection ad, where you kind of have the video and then you can directly go in and click the products underneath it and go to the website. That works exceptionally well. So it's early days with YouTube, but seeing very, very low cost per click and low cost per view.
I think it's always, I hate to sort of, it's a great time for paid ads, and I think it genuinely is. That is what you're saying, and it is. But obviously it doesn't mean that every business is going to. And I think that's where you've got to be clear. Obviously, if you're in the data tells the story, doesn't it? And you've got to look at the facts and figures and numbers. Nobody can go in and spend thousands, tens of thousands, and not get a return, especially now.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I think it's a good time to be testing, and trying, because the ROAS really is in a lot of e-commerce is unbelievable at the moment. Obviously, some industries, that may be 20-30%. It's hard, we could pull a stat in from Google and whatnot, but 20-30% of industries, but e-com specifically, which is this podcast is obviously about, most of those, we've got clients in the fish industry, in the food industry, in the drinks industry, in the barbecue industry, in the clothing industry, in the outdoor clothing, bikes, fitness, all blowing up, isn't it? So
yeah, it's one of the kind of interesting within that kind of data you say, there's that kind of general trajectory. What's also happening, it seems to be happening a lot of our across a lot of our different accounts, is that we're getting a lot more orders for the lower value items as well. So I think these would potentially be products that people would be might have originally thought of buying from a store. But we've seen a real spike in, a lot of the case, the average order value is actually decreased, but we're just getting loads of many more conversions and a higher conversion rate as well. So that's interesting. I think as a result of even kind of coming out of COVID, so we obviously hope as soon as possible the restrictions kind of ease and get back to normal. I think there will be a change in buying habits. I think that's almost certainly going to happen when people realize it is very easy to, perhaps if people haven't been purchasing before online, they realize it's actually very straightforward to do so.
That's what I 100% agree. I think, when the day comes and we're say back to normal, because I don't think that day is ever going to happen. But in terms, everything, the world has changed, so it's not going to, there'll be a new normal. But the reality is, you might not have ordered your smoked salmon online. Obviously, people do. You've now tried that, and now when you're thinking about buying smoked salmon, do you know that guy we bought it off the fishman.com or whatever it is? Do you know what? I'm just going to order it off him again. It was great, So you've been forced to try these different websites, but now you've no doubt had a good experience. Nine times out of 10, 9.5 times out of 10. So why would you not go back and just and buy from those sites again? So I think what a great time for e-commerce stores to go and win that business. Okay, you're getting that sale, you're doing well now. You're getting that sale, you've got this 3-6 month big purge and, big spike. But then you're also buying, you're buying your customers right now as well. You're building that brand, you're building, that customer database that, like most things, not every product, but you go and rebuy stuff, don't you? If you're buying fish, you don't just eat a bit, obviously you go back every 3 months and, get your 50, 60, 100 quid's worth of fish for the freezer or whatever, depending on,
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, so
yeah, we do. I mean, we absolutely see that a lot of the customers, and speaking to our clients as well, a lot of them are very, very much kind of repeat customers, and just getting that kind of initial order through, which can often come through a kind of paid advertising, for instance, can be extremely valuable. Looking at the kind of the lifetime value of that customer, as you said, particularly for products which you buy on repeat. So I've got clients who sell, for instance, pet medication, and that can be really worthwhile once you kind of get that initial sale in, the month in, month out.
Anybody that knows
people kind of get a repeating order.
Consistent, isn't it? I get however many months you're buying your flea treatments and your, it's just a regular thing, isn't it? And once you've bought that customer once, you've got them for maybe the 20 years, 15, 10 years lifespan of the pet. Okay, so so much good stuff. So in terms of we've got people listening in that'll be managing their accounts themselves. We've got people that'll be working with agencies like ourselves. But what would you say, what are some recommendations around account management? What are some of the routines, some of the things that are so important to managing an account well? Yeah,
so one of my favorites, ever kind of principles, and something I kind of repeat ad nauseum, everyone gets completely sick of me banging on about it, is the 80-20 principle. So this is essentially saying that kind of a minority of inputs often can cause the effect of kind of changing the majority of outputs. So essentially 20% of your actions will give you 80% of the results. So this was a kind of real game changer when I first heard about this, and I think it was initially Tim Ferriss where I kind of discovered it from. But then I've subsequently, it's one of these things where you kind of I kind of see it all over the place. A lot of people reference it, and it's been incredibly useful. And it's often the case with the account you might have 10,000 SKUs, you might have 500 campaigns. But just by getting the settings, everything right on maybe 3 campaigns, you can actually bring in kind of 50% of the benefit. So one of the things about the 80-20 principle is that it's fractal, which essentially means that the top 20% of the top 20% of your actions will give you the top 80% of the top 80% of the results. So a lot of the times it's just really kind of focusing on thinking, okay, rather than trying to change 500 different things in this 2 hours I've got to manage this account today, it would actually get better results if I could think, kind of 5 really kind of key things to change.
So quick fire around then. What's the 3 things that everybody listening should look at?
So number 1, I would say, so this is actually, I kind of referenced in the book actually, which I wrote on this, or kind of long pamphlet that I wrote on this subject, is looking at devices. So this is essentially kind of bidding differently depending on whether your ad's appearing on computer or it's appearing on mobile or tablet. So generally speaking, with mobile devices, you get a lot of search volume there, and you can also get a lot of conversion value there as well, a lot of clicks. But then the conversion rates can be quite poor, and if you don't change the device adjustment, so which often means having a negative bid adjustment, you can be burning a lot of money and just not actually getting any profit from it at all. So yeah, just by decreasing, in 90% of cases, decreasing the bid adjustments on mobile, or at least having a look at how mobile's performing, you can really revolutionize the performance of the account. So that'd be my number one recommendation.
Number one, look at mobile. Number one, look at your mobile. Look at the attribution to mobile, and go in there. Probably quite aggressive, is what we're saying. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, follow the data for sure. But I mean, generally, if you're comparing the performance, you can actually do this in the overview screen of Google Ads, so you can see it straight away. So if you look at conversion value divided by cost, that's we find the best measure of profitability, and you'll often find that it's substantially lower on mobile because you're getting a lot of clicks and it's very expensive, but your cost per click's too high. So having a negative bid modifier there. So in a lot of account, it depends on how good your sort of mobile experience is, of course, as well. But often you're really 90% of the cases where we go in and the account's not being optimized, you're paying far too much for mobile conversions. So a big decrease there can
so that's
literally change the
first thing you look at then when you're looking at an ad account. You'll go straight to the adjustment. You'll go to the mobile, click on mobile, see if there's any adjustments. No adjustments. It's like, right, we can save these guys 20% of ad spend.
Yeah, absolutely. Often more than that. You can kind of save them quite a bit more than that as well. And then yeah, potentially with a in comparative terms, having a higher bid on computer as well, where conversion rates are much better, you can scale your conversion value too.
Brilliant. So what will be the next one? What will be the next sort of 80-20, 20-20? The real, what will be the next one that you would go to after the mobile?
I'd actually break it down and look at the individual product performance. So the key thing to do there is have use filters in the account. So if you go to the product group level, you can actually see the level at which you're bidding. So a lot of accounts actually we see people have just the same bid for every single product, which is that's a real indication that we can improve things. So that's not a very good way of setting it up in 99.99% of cases. So yeah, have a look at the product group level, and then you want to add a filter. So you want to work out what a good return on ad spend would be for your account, how profitable your account needs to be for it to kind of work for you. So if your ROAS target is 10, return on ad spend target is 10, you want to add a filter. So show me everything below that, filter by cost, and then you can very, very quickly see where you're spending far too much money.
It's real hidden gem, isn't it, in there? I think so simple when you know where it is and you know how to maneuver them. And so we go to filters on the product level, and we then look at return on ad spend, and obviously anything under whatever your ideal return or your break even or the level. If you're working to 10, we try to work to 10, don't we, as an agency? Obviously it varies on industry, but so you go to 10. Anything under 5 is obviously a big problem, so you're going to do some big adjustments there, is what you're saying. Anything over 10 is a big opportunity, so straight away. So
yes,
I'm interrupting you there. I do apologize.
No problem.
I'm going to go straight into the third one. What would you say is the third one? Third quick one.
Yeah, the third one I'd say is remarketing. So remarketing is actually something which is actually quite overlooked, I would say, with the shopping and search as well. So a lot of people, when they think of remarketing, they think of a annoying banner which follows them around the internet. So they're on a kind of a news site, and it's this kind of big pop-up, and they don't want to click on it, and they do click on it. It's often by accident because of the fact they've I think someone described it as kind of having like fat thumbs, where you kind of accidentally click on these remarketing banners which they don't want to see. So that's display remarketing, and it can be effective if in kind of certain circumstances. But what we're really talking about here is remarketing lists for search ads and remarketing for shopping itself.
Yeah. And
what this does is it puts anyone who's been on your website into a bucket. So a very simple set of remarketing adjustments you can make based on how much time someone's been on your site. So you can say everyone who's been on my site, who's been on for 5 minutes, they're put in bucket A, and everyone who's been on the site and they've been there for half an hour or more, we can put on category B, for instance.
Yeah.
And then people who have spent more time on your site, they're more likely to be interested
Yeah.
And then you can put a adjustment on the search ad itself or on the shopping ad or campaign itself.
Yeah.
So when someone types in a term which could trigger your products, they're much more likely to see them in a prominent position.
Yeah.
And what we see nowadays is that the path link, so the number of times that someone visits your website before making a purchase, is pretty high. So in a lot of cases, people are, before making a purchase, they revisit your website 4 or 5 times. And then they'll obviously be, in a lot of cases, comparing other websites as well.
Yeah.
So it's a quite simple thing to do to just add these remarketing adjustments to your shopping campaigns or to your search campaigns.
Yeah.
And then it just means your ads are going to be much more visible when people are searching again. As you say, one of the trends we're seeing is, as we said, touched on, people are looking at a lot of different websites now before making a purchase.
Yeah.
Kind of comparing prices and whatnot. So yeah, it's a really key.
So we've got 3 very quick wins there. We're looking at the mobile, we're looking at the devices, we're looking at product level ROAS using the filters, and then we're looking at remarketing on product level, so Google Shopping remarketing as opposed to display remarketing, which people get very confused with. Very, very different. So we're not talking about banner ads and banner remarketing that follow us around and bother us. We're talking about, I went and looked at this barbecue 2 days ago, and I put it in the basket. I didn't buy the barbecue, but now that the actual barbecue is following me around. And as an AdWords advertiser, I'm bidding more strategically on trying to attract me back because I showed a real interest in that barbecue because I put it in the checkout. Yeah. So, and you can just see straight away, that somebody's been in your shop already. They've had a good look around, and then you're bringing them back to the shop, and they're seeing that thing that they spent half an hour looking at, or they're seeing that thing they spent 5 minutes looking at. The person that spent half an hour looking at it, you're bidding more strategically. Yeah.
That's a really good point you touched on there about the abandoned checkout. So that's actually the very, very best audience remarketing that you can add in on Google or on Facebook. So touch on Facebook as well. But yeah, so if someone's been all the way to the checkout and they abandon it, and that can be very, very high levels. So it can be kind of 60, 70% or more of people who get all the way to the checkout and then they end up not purchasing. Life gets in the way, or they decide, actually, I don't have enough money in the account, or whatever it might be. At that point, if you get those people and you set a really high remarketing adjustment for them on the search and shopping campaigns, that's very powerful. And then just briefly touching on Facebook, that's the very best audience that we found on Facebook. So we actually find that, I know it's kind of been saying that banner ads don't work very well on Google. The equivalent on Facebook is a completely different story, where the ads are much more native to the platform. They're not seen as a kind of a spam or an intrusion. They're seen as kind of part of the platform in a lot of cases. And they are astonishingly effective if you're remarketing using dynamic product ads, which means that if someone's been looking at a certain set of products, they'll then see that set of products on Facebook in an ad. Very, very high conversion rates, and kind of the return ad spends you'll see there is going to be very, very high, significantly high in a lot of cases on Google. So because you're targeting such a narrow audience with that, you're not necessarily going to see the massive conversion value which you might see throughout your entire Google Ads account, but with that narrow audience with the really specific products, you'll see a great conversion, great return ad spend.
Great ROAS. So Google Shopping, so it's been around, I think, about 16, 18 years, and I remember it back then. I was, a retailer or an e-tailer back then, prior to the agency. I was selling online for 10 years, and it was called Frugal. It was free. You would upload your list, your CSV or whatever, a text file, push your products into Google. You're on page 1 of Google in half an hour or 24 hours. Sounds like some sort of dodgy sort of marketing speak, but that was the reality. You would upload your list, Frugal. It was free. Obviously, Google went to a paid model 8 years ago, I think, maybe. I'm maybe slightly out with my timings, but about 8 years ago, they went to the Google paid on the shopping. Was called product listing ads, and then PLAs as people know it. Then it was known as Google Shopping. Now really it's known as shopping ads. That's the official term from Google, shopping ads. And shopping ads, massive explosion, in terms of and growth in shopping ads. Huge, the CSS, which we probably won't go into today. But you're able to, there's been a real investment from Google, and a massive growth for e-commerce, a real strength, of Google, and something we built a whole agency around. But this last, I think 3 weeks ago, there was a huge announcement from Google that they're bringing frugal back. Now that's quite a bold statement to make. That's the sort of headline. But what's all that about? They're saying that now it's free. There's rumours of it's been free, and obviously there's quite a lot more to that. So can you explain to the listeners, what's happening there with the sort of the new free Google shopping ads?
Yeah, so this was something apparently Google had in the pipeline for some time, but then they decided to accelerate it in light of the kind of the COVID-19 pandemic. And what this essentially is there'll be free listings, but only within the Google Shopping tab itself. So I think that's a really important distinction to make.
So one of Google, when you search, they're not there. They're when you click the tab within the first page. Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. So within the shopping tab itself, and I think a lot of people are thinking it's going to be one of the reasons, or there are probably quite a few reasons why Google are doing this, is to try and rival Amazon. So kind of the Amazon marketplace, where have the organic product listings as well as the paid for. So yeah, this is really very significant news. It's probably look at the headline, kind of free Google Shopping listings. It's you're probably not going to see the massive volumes that you would do if you were kind of appearing on page one of Google for your at the moment in a shopping listing. But it's still absolutely really worth paying attention to and having a look at. Yeah. So yeah, the way that you opt into that is actually pretty straightforward. You just need to have a feed running. You don't need to have any shopping ads or any kind of PPC running at all. You just need to have a feed which is uploaded to Merchant Center. Yeah. And then you need to enable that feed through something called opting into surfaces, and then your ads can start appearing. And that's currently live in the US. So we've have a client who's has got their shopping ads paused at the moment in the US, but they're starting to get impressions again and clicks on their listings, which is great. So kind of free traffic there. So it's growing as well. Actually, it's interesting kind of day on day, which is great to see. So
what's the understanding of when it'll be available in the UK?
Yeah, so I heard on a webinar which was given by one of the heads of the UK e-commerce that they're looking at introducing it in the third quarter of this year. So still not very specific on the timing yet, but it should definitely be this year from what he was saying.
Maybe 5-6 months. We should
5-6 months. Yeah.
So it's definitely out. It's not a it's not just a rumor. It's a fact. Obviously, we are seeing it in accounts, US accounts.
Yeah.
And we're seeing it enabled. We're seeing click-throughs and impressions and click-throughs and whatnot. Obviously, small volumes.
Yeah, it'd be very interesting to see how it all progresses, really, and what happens with the Google Shopping tab as well. So at the moment, it's probably under 20% of people actually click onto the Google Shopping tab. A lot of the searches for the are just kind of made on the main homepage. But it's going to be interesting to see how that develops. And I think Google have given a bit of a sneak peek to kind of show that. So a lot more organic listings.
I think that it's a great opportunity. Obviously, you're going to get it's not like you're not paying for these ads. If you were paying, you get maybe 100 times more clicks or whatever. But the reality is, you can now list your products in Google for free. You're not on the high street. You're down you're on a side street, but you're still going to get people coming by. You are still going to get clicks. So
yeah, that's a really good analogy.
Those that are thinking of dipping their toe in shopping, then what a great time to do it. We're 3 or 4 months away maybe from anybody in the UK that's listening, particularly, where you could get those feeds in place. You could get those products, all sorted on your website, so everything's looking great. And then when it rolls around, you've got you've hooked up to your merchant center, you've got your products showing. Because literally an email is going to come through. Anybody listening that's got an AdWords account, an email is going to hit you at a point, and you'll go, oh, you can be on there. And then you'll go, how do I do that? Obviously you can then sort it out, or you can get geared up now. So you hook up your merchant center, enable surfaces, but obviously they won't show yet until the account has been enabled. And you will get an email, because we've been having them through for the US clients. You'll get an email, and obviously it'll probably be news to you, like it's news to us that day when they've started to come through, and then everyone will be scrambling But you'll be able to try, for free Google Shopping, and you'll get, maybe we don't know the percentage, but you're going to get a percentage of what you're going to get a taste, of that high street store on the first page of Google, aren't you? Which is it's so exciting, I think.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I think it'd be great for people as well. I mean, I think that'll be a real first mover advantage if you kind of get on there early, and then you can, if you're completely new to it, you can, trial out optimizing, for instance, your product feed, making kind of testing different descriptions to go alongside, different headlines to go alongside your products as well, and just kind of get a feel for what works, completely cost-free. And then if you do decide to kind of branch into paid shopping, all those learnings will be very, very useful.
And I think you're winning in that you've got that technical piece set up. Obviously, there'll be, there's a lot of recommendations we would make as an agency to really hone that feed. Feed is a whole other webinar, which we'll probably do with our head of feeds and technical, Andy. But you're over the line. You're live. You get a taste, and then you could go, do you know what? We're making something out of this. Let's just commit to a starting budget, because we've already had a taste. So great times. So last question, Henry. Okay, so I always like to end on a book recommendation for our listeners. What's the one book you would recommend to our listeners?
One book which I kind of revisit quite a lot and kind of like to dip into is by Tim Ferriss, called Tools of Titans, and it's a very thick book. Is maybe kind of 500, 600 pages or something like that. But it's broken up to lots of small chunks where Tim Ferriss interviews lots of different world-class performers, people like kind of Arnold Schwarzenegger, the lady who's from the Huffington Post, Ariana Huffington, I think her name is, Jocko Willink, and lots of other kind of really impressive public figures, celebrities, businessmen, world-class kind of sports performers, and just ask them all about their habits, their routines, what they accredit their success to, things that they've learned from. One of the interesting things I think was from that book was he kind of asked them, what's a really bad piece of advice you've been given, which I thought was quite an interesting question. But yeah, it's really interesting, and it's what I quite like to do is kind of dip into lots of different people's recommendations. That could be a really good jumping off point. So I actually ended up listening to the audiobook written by Arnold Schwarzenegger, which was fantastic. I really enjoyed that. Book called Total Recall, which I was kind of introduced to. Found all sorts of things that, he was actually kind of a businessman as well as a weightlifter. He was actually a millionaire, for instance, before he made his first film, which I thought was quite interesting. Other things there. But,
right, we'll have to get that on the list. So for the guys that are listening in that want to find out more about, shopping or more, and connect with you and paid ads, Facebook ads, shopping ads, Google ads, etc., and obviously just generally to connect with you, what's the best place to connect with you, Henry?
The best place I would say is LinkedIn. So you can find me on there, as well as our website as well. So getting back into the blogging again. So I'm publishing quite a few. I put a blog out yesterday actually on the free Google shopping listings. And then also through email as well, henry@eComOne.com. So that might be there.
eComOne, LinkedIn, we'll find you on there, and obviously on our company website, eComOne.com. Well, thank you very much for being on the podcast. It's been a pleasure.
That's great. Enjoyed that. Thank you.
Thank you.